All right. Welcome to episode 18. Don't be ridiculous. Yep, we're good. Sorry about that, folks. We just tried to record about 10 minutes and well, not 10 minutes, about 4 minutes. And I didn't realize the audio was not on. So that would have been quite embarrassing.
Yeah.
But anyway, so you wanted to you had some thoughts on your Nicolas Cage movie. Oh, and you know what?
Yeah. Guys, we've got there's a new movie coming out next year.
Hold on. So Baltimore's playing Green Bay right now. Baltimore's going for 2 to win the game with 42 seconds to go. All right, he snapped the ball to Huntley. He's rolling to the right, throws, didn't get it. Incomplete. There's still 42 seconds left though.
Okay.
Wow. Crazy.
With the backup quarterback.
Yeah. I mean, listen, watching the games today, give Baltimore credit, man. They got half their roster injured.
They've won games this year. Like they're a mess. So
yeah, half their roster is injured, and they hung in there today. They hung in there. You would think Green Bay would just blow them out, and they really, until the second.
That's winning culture. That's coaching. That's stable organization. That's all.
Until the second half, and they almost made that 2-point play to win the game there.
Yeah.
Anyway, so we got a new movie coming out, Clark.
Oh yeah. I had to. This is non-sports related, but new Nicolas Cage movie coming out next year called "The Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent," which, first of all, is an awesome title. Now, according to the internet, the description of this movie is: an obsessive fan forces actor Nicolas Cage to recreate his most famous characters and scenes during a birthday party. So I'm in, because that sounds like the greatest movie ever made. I mean, Nicolas Cage reenacting stuff from his career. I mean, come on. Nicolas Cage is awesome and sort of a bad but good yet bad. I don't even know how to describe it. It's bad yet it's good, but it's good but it's bad. I don't even know how to really explain it. But I'm a huge fan of Nicolas Cage, so I think people should check it out. I'm going to check it out because I'm all in. So
it's so bad and weird that it could be legendary.
I mean, yeah, exactly.
Yeah, absolutely. Looking forward to it.
So the first thing we wanted to talk about was Urban Meyer. That was obviously a really huge story this whole week.
Right. So, Urban Meyer got fired on Wednesday night, Thursday morning, early. So first of all, I was right on this. I called this last November probably.
When he got hired?
That this was, I called it before he got hired, when the rumors started that he might take the Jacksonville job. I called this. Yeah, I called this in November because I thought he physically has a hard time making it through college football seasons. There's no way.
November of 2020, not November of this year.
Right. November a year ago. I thought physically he would just have issues because he's got some physical problems. He's got from what I've read about what happened when he was at Florida, he's got some kind of cyst on his brain that causes him some issues, which I don't know what that means, but whatever. That's what they said. That's what was in the story. So I thought there's no way that this is a good idea, because as hard as you have to work in college, you have to work much harder in the NFL.
Yeah, because in college it's about recruiting, and then you get the best players there. And I mean, there is some in-game stuff, but I mean, the NFL, it's all scheme and, preparing for stuff and, from what has been released and reported and what I've been reading about it, it didn't seem like Urban Meyer was all into the getting prepared every week and studying the film and just getting everybody ready to go. So,
well, think about it. In college, you practice 20 hours a week.
Yeah.
Yep. The NFL is 24/7, every day, all night.
Right.
The whole thing. So
I wanted to, real quick, because there's an article on The Ringer which does a really fantastic job going over the whole. It's called "The 10 Moments That Define Urban Meyer's Disastrous Jaguars Tenure," and it's amazing because it goes through 10 different things, and it's funny to me because I'm reading them and going, "Oh yeah, I forgot about that thing that happened. I was only thinking of these 2 or 3 things. Then there's 2 or 3 more that you're like, oh my God, that happened too. It's on the Ringer. It's by Roger Sherman, so people should check it out if you're wanting to get up to speed on everything that went wrong with Urban Meyer in his time with the Jaguars.
Yeah, exactly. So, but what it kind of I found interesting this week is the story came out obviously where Urban Meyer kicked his kicker in the leg and said, "Make your fucking kicks."
Yeah, and the kicker got turned back and he's like, "Don't kick me." And he's like, "I'm the head ball coach. I can do whatever the hell I want."
Yeah, so everybody's jumped on board with that. Well, Urban Meyer's an asshole, and
that happened in August. That's the thing,
right?
Which is kind of crazy. It's coming out now because all the other stuff has happened. So,
right. So it's and what I just found interesting is that now he's a bad person because he sucked coaching in the NFL, and it's like I've got news for everybody. Like, I'm sure if he's an asshole with the Jaguars, he was an asshole at Florida, and he was an asshole at Ohio State. So,
yeah, it's not breaking news. It's
like if you it all as everything in sports comes down to, do you win? Like, right. Did you win? Did you win? Because if you win, we'll let 35 players at Florida get arrested in the 5 years he was there.
Right.
No problem. You know, if he's got the assistant coach is beating his wife at Ohio State, but Urban, we'll just suspend him.
The thing is, I heard so Albert Breer was really great. He was on, it was either Colin or maybe it was Dan Patrick, and he was talking about how Urban Meyer's style is basically he kind of creates some level of tension and chaos, and that's kind of how he does things. And he also mentioned that, like, on some level, Saban does that as well. Right. So people are like, oh, this whole thing with the Jaguars is chaotic. Yeah, it was chaotic, but people wouldn't have cared if they won, So,
right. Yeah, and then it goes back to he'll never get another job, and it's like, oh, then nobody's going to hire him now. And
I heard that on ESPN. I heard Heather Dinich and Paul Feinbaum were basically like kind of saying that. So I don't know. I mean, it may just, I kind of think that's a thing where people just give it a year, give it 6 months or something. People will kind of forget about it. He could get another job in college or as an analyst on Fox or ESPN or whatever.
Yeah. Does he want, that's the thing. Does he want one? You know what I mean? No, he can't get hired right now. There's no jobs open.
Yeah.
All the jobs are taken now. It's like, I don't think anybody's going to hire him in the NFL or college for next season. Probably not. But the idea that if he wants to coach again, he won't be able to get a job is lunacy. And, I think to me, this Urban Meyer thing just boils down to, it's a perfect example of, he tried to get happier than happy. He had a great gig on TV. Like, he was great at it from what all the reporters were saying. He really loved it. And, he was fine. He didn't, I
think he's hyper competitive and he wanted to just see, can I do this in the NFL?
Right. Yeah. And, I think, so I don't think it's a bad thing he took the job, but I just think, he obviously was not prepared from what it looked to me.
Ready for what the NFL is. Right. I was reading through this article this week and it's just like, he got upset in the preseason because he said his assistant coaches were preventing him from running the Jags' full game plan in their scrimmages. And so I'm quoting Urban Meyer. He said, we can't show this, we can't show that. And I'm like, why? Tell me why. Explain to me why. And it's like, dude, you can't show all your stuff in preseason scrimmages, okay? Because you're going to give the other teams an idea of what you're going to run. So they're going to be like, you have to kind of limit what it's the preseason. And then this whole thing with the preseason where he just, he got upset because they lost games in the preseason, as if he didn't get the whole concept that these are exhibition games. They don't actually matter, And And then it was so funny because he hired all his assistant coaches. And then there's a story he brings his assistant coaches into a room and calls them all losers. And it's like, dude, you hired these people. What the I mean, it's just a thing where like he just obviously did not get how the NFL worked. And then there's other stuff in the story where they're talking about why there was a game where they didn't have Trevor Lawrence do a quarterback sneak, and they're like, well, why didn't you? The press after the game was like, why didn't you do that? And he's like, oh, well, we didn't work on that or something like that. And it's like, no, that's not true. You did that plenty of times. It's like, it just seemed like he didn't know what the hell he was talking about because he wasn't as locked in as I guess you need to be. So.
Yeah, I got the impression that in college he would just let his coordinators do what they were going to do.
Yeah, which in college that works, but in the NFL you can't do that.
Right, you have to be on top of every single detail.
Yeah,
and so yeah, I think it's. I don't think we need to I don't like the media bashing Urban Meyer. I think okay, he tried it, it didn't work out. He wasn't good at it. That's it. It's not more complicated than that. He didn't ruin anybody's life or, commit some kind of crime or,
I mean, it was a disaster because, I mean, he didn't even last the full season,
right.
Which is fun, but I do want to just, I'm not going to go into the whole Tebow thing, but I just thought at the time we talked about how we thought that was completely ridiculous. And it was completely ridiculous. Okay. Anyone who said otherwise was wrong. You were just, you're just putting a hot take out there. So, right. And that was, to me, that was part of the thing where we're like, he just doesn't get it. A similar thing was that he sat the one running back, Robinson, and then he put Carlos Hyde in, and people are like, well, Carlos Hyde played at Ohio State. Was he just playing Carlos Hyde because he's his guy? You know what that reminded me of? Remember when Spurrier was the coach of the Redskins?
Yeah.
He played Danny Werfel, and it's like, dude, he's not an NFL quarterback. What the hell are you doing? Like, I know he played for you in college, but you can't, that's just stupid. That's not how the NFL works.
Yeah, I heard some story where Spurrier was at practice one day with the Redskins, and, the offense and defense are practicing on the same field. And he's like, or no, I think the offense was practicing. He's like, okay, where's the defense practicing? And they're like, Coach, we don't have 100 players. We can't, we don't have the defense practice over there and the offense practice over here. Like, they have to practice against each other. Like that's how this works. So he literally had no idea, what was going on. And the thing is, you can get away with, it's kind of, I think this I think should kind of teach people. There's a massive difference between the NFL and college. Jimmy Johnson, the former Cowboys coach, was on, I think, Dan Patrick the other day. And he said, and they asked him, well, what's the difference between the NFL and college? He goes, they're not they're galaxies apart. They are complete. There is not, there are very few similarities, and one is completely different than the other. And so I think that anybody who thought that, now, granted, you obviously were uninformed if you thought that, oh, well, he can do it in the NFL. Because it's a different ball game. And so I think you have to know every single thing that's going you have to know and get involved in every single thing that's going on.
Yeah.
You cannot be a CEO and be a good head coach. You really have to be on
those
top
days are not, you can't be sitting on the sideline, not wearing a headset, basically being a cheerleader. That doesn't work anymore in the NFL. That doesn't work in college either.
Yep.
Yeah. So, but yeah, the stuff about him just complaining about the preseason and calling his assistant coaches losers and not being able to deal with, it's like, what did you think you were getting into, dude? And then there was a comment, he said, it's like we're playing Alabama every week. And he said that after they played the Texans. What So yeah, that was, just kind of a mess. They're just, and it's not to say that college guys can't be successful in the NFL, but I thought it was interesting that before he got the job, or when he got the job, Colin Cowherd was basically saying he's never coached in the NFL. That kind of concerns me. So, and I think that's totally fair.
Yeah. Most guys that they go from college to the NFL, they've usually coached in the NFL at some point. Like the guy for Matt Rule, the Panthers coach, he's coached in the NFL before. Yeah. So it's different, it's different if you've done that before. Nick Saban, before he came to the Dolphins, he'd coached in the NFL before.
Exactly.
So that's a different deal. But anyway, yeah. So Urban was a big ass sloppy mess, and it didn't work out as I predicted it probably wouldn't. And the bigger thing that people need to talk about is we need to get off of Urban Meyer, and the Jaguars are a complete disaster of a franchise.
Yeah.
They have been for a long time. The owner has no clue what he's doing. And that's coming from a Dolphins fan. I'm not sure our owner knows what the hell he's doing.
According to Colin Cowherd, he said that if they didn't get Urban Meyer, they were going to hire Robert Saleh, who's coaching the Jets, who are a mess right now. So, yeah, that's you're like, oh, you can't call it a mess because they just hired the wrong guy. No, they didn't just hire the wrong guy. The other concern I have is that Trevor Lawrence is ridiculously talented, okay? But there's only so much that quarterbacks can overcome. So if they don't get things flipped around pretty quickly, then it's going to be one of those things where we sit there and wonder, like, could Trevor Lawrence have been better than he is if he had competent coaching the whole time? Which we wonder that about a lot of quarterbacks. But he's been really bad this year, and I don't want to sit there and blame him. But it's just you look at it and it's like, okay, we're getting to the end of his first year. Can we see some stuff that we can cling to and kind of go, all right, there's some hope there that we can see he's going to, but it's been really bad. So hopefully, they've got a few games left. Maybe they can turn things around. I don't know.
Yeah. All right. So moving on from that. So we had a long conversation about this the Thursday night game between the Chiefs and the Chargers.
Oh God, here we go.
The Chargers are the new age. New age. We believe in analytics. We do things our own way. They're coming out of the box, man. They go for it on fourth down, and they do not apologize for it. And so I can support that. Like I can support we're going to do it this way. This is how we're going to do it. This is how we do things.
Right.
But I just think.
Let's set the stage real quick. So you were the first one that turned me on to this, toward the beginning of the season. Okay. And then I started watching for it, and then I started noticing it. And we've continued to watch over the course of the season. We've seen a bunch of different situations where we're criticizing people for going for it on fourth down because it just doesn't seem to make any sense. And then the Chargers Chiefs game. Okay. Just for people to, if you watch the game, remember what happened. The Chargers got the opening kickoff, right? The guy made a brilliant return. He returned it 70 yards or something like that, which, let's just be clear here. Great kick returns or kick return touchdowns rarely happen, okay? So if the guy doesn't run it all the way back, to me, in my mind, it would seem to make sense that you can't come away from that with no points, whether it's a field goal or a touchdown. Okay, so they run a couple plays, they get it close to the end zone. Then they have three passes where it was kind of close. Most of them, they almost got a couple of them. Okay, you didn't get it. You're on fourth down from the 5-yard line or whatever it was. Just kick the field goal, man. It's the first drive of the game. You're not behind. You're at home. You just had a great kick return. Just kick the damn field goal. But they went for it on fourth down. They didn't get it. And one of the things that's kind of annoying to me is that the coach after the game says, and by the way, this isn't the only fourth down I'm talking about. I'm talking about a bunch of the fourth downs they went for.
They went for 5 fourth downs.
Yeah. But the coach after the game says, well, that's the way we do things. And to me, with our quarterback and our offense, it's not a risk. Bullshit. Okay. It's not a risk. Yeah, there is a risk because you might, every play doesn't work out the way you want it to. Okay. So if you're in field goal range and you don't kick the field goal, you go for it, you don't get it, then you've just given up, possibly, depending on how close you are. In some cases, you've given up 3 points. In other cases, it's like you gave up a chance to have just 3 points. Okay, so yeah, that fourth down. By the way, I was saying this as I was watching the game. I'm like, just kick the damn field goal. Okay, and then the Chargers, they get up 14-10. They're driving down with under 2 minutes to go, and they get close to the end zone, and they decide to go for it again on fourth down. They don't get it, so they don't get any points out of that. So that's 6 points they didn't get. Okay, assuming everything else in the game stayed the same, which it probably wouldn't have, because that's a ridiculous assumption to make. But if everything else had stayed the same, they would have been up 20-10 instead of 14-10. That's 2 scores. Okay, so that annoyed me. And then in the second half, they're one of the main things is like they're like, oh, well, we need to go for it because we need to score touchdowns. Well, you kind of proved throughout the game that you didn't have any trouble driving the ball down the field. So the idea that, well, we got to go for it, what, you're not going to get the ball back and be able to drive it down again? I thought you had all this confidence in your offense. Like, what the hell? But I probably have more to discuss on this, but go ahead with your thoughts.
Well, yeah, and on that point about, well, we got to get touchdowns, this isn't the Chiefs from 2 years ago.
Yeah.
Like, are you watching the film? Like, they're not lighting people up. And that
was a close game throughout, pretty much.
Right. And, people are saying the Chiefs are back because of that game. The Chiefs didn't play that well. Like, they needed a touchdown at the end. They're like, oh, well, look how much they scored. They got a touchdown in overtime, and then they had to score a touchdown at the end of regulation to get to 28 points. They didn't play that well on offense. Like, it was, so I think that's asinine. So, but I think a really good point that I heard on this was on the Peyton and Eli Manning doing the Monday Night Football. Yeah. He said during one of the earlier games this season, you go for it on fourth down. Well, you had 3 chances to make the right play call and you couldn't do it. So now you have the right play?
Yeah.
Are you saving your best play calls for fourth down? Probably not. So you couldn't figure it out on when you had 3 chances to get the first down, but you've got the right play now, but you have to go for it? Like, that doesn't make any sense. Like,
yeah.
Odds are the defenses in the NFL, they're pretty good. They're probably going to stop you if you've used all your best plays up already. So it's, I think that there's a game management thing that goes into this, okay? You can't just look at analytics and go, oh, well, we just have to go for it because the numbers say we have to go for it. And we're playing the Chiefs, so we have to. And it's like, yeah, but were you watching the game? Like, if you just
you can't give away. This is it's a game management thing, and it's a situation thing. And then that's the other point I want to make. I want everyone to be clear who's listening to this. I'm not saying that you should never go for it on fourth down. There's been plenty of situations during the year where I'm like, go for it. Like when the Monday night, the Cardinals were playing the Rams, and the Cardinals were kind of struggling in that game, but they got it to 7 points. They're driving. They get over midfield. They get a 4th and 2. You know what? You've been kind of struggling. You don't really want to give the Rams the ball right back. You want to try to score, tie the game, and maybe you can make something happen on defense and try to get the lead. Okay, so it made perfect sense to go for it. They didn't get it, but I'm fine with it. Because I know sometimes you're not going to get it. The point I want to make is that, like, I'm not criticizing this necessarily because of the result. Like Colin Cowherd saying, well, if they just converted a couple of them, you'd be saying differently. I'd be like, I mean, not really. I mean, because, if you convert them, but is that how you're going to play now? You're going to take these giant risks to try to win games? Because that doesn't seem like a very sustainable model for winning a bunch of close games, which close games, that's kind of what happens in the playoffs. They're decided by a possession or two, and it's basically, did you make that field goal? Did you get a penalty here? Did you throw an interception? Did you not convert this third down? Like, Yeah,
it should be a calculated risk.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You should be taking in all the factors, not just, oh, well, the numbers say we should do it and we're playing the Chiefs, so we have to go for it. It's just, okay, like and the one to me that's the most inexcusable is the one right before the half. They have 3 seconds left on the clock. Just take the 3 points. What is wrong with 3 points?
Well, yeah, and the other, it's like, so I don't want to get too much into the momentum argument about it, but it's like, look, they had a good first half. Okay. They had 2 nice touchdown drives. Okay. You're down there. You're in the lead. Just kick the field goal. You get up 7 points. What's the worst that's going to happen? You're not going to win the game there by scoring a touchdown. That's the other thing. People are like, oh, we got to score touchdowns. Yeah, there's points in the game where you want to score touchdowns where it could lead to you winning the game. You're not going to win the game there. Like what? You get up 21-10. If you're so concerned about the Chiefs scoring a bunch of points, what, you're up 11 and you think you're going to win based on that when they still have the whole half of football left to play? Like, come on.
Yeah, no, they played a great half and they were up by 1. It's 14-13 at halftime, and it's like you can't, so I was just like so yeah, it's a game management thing. You're exactly right. I don't think you can give points away. So, but based on what I've seen this season, someone is going to lose a playoff game because of this. It's gonna happen because the Chargers, right? The Chargers are basically like, no, we're just going to go for it every single time, and it's like. And like you're saying, well, I wouldn't change my mind based on the result. I wouldn't either. But if you're going to go for, and back to my original point, if you have to go for fourth down 5 times in a game,
yeah, what's going wrong on third down?
Something's not right. Like that, you shouldn't be in situations where you've got a really good quarterback like they do, and you've got to go for it 5 times. Like the game was never out of hand. You had the lead for most of it.
Yep.
Like, why are you making this more complicated than it is?
Well, no, and it's like throughout the season, there's been games we've been commenting on where you're like where you've talked about they went for it on fourth down, they didn't get it, they gave up 3 points, and then they lost the game by 3 points. Like what? I mean, it's like guys, it's sometimes it's the math is that freaking simple.
Most games in the NFL are decided by 1 score or less.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, you just kick a field goal once or twice there, you win the game.
Yeah.
But, don't make it more complicated than it is.
Like, and the other thing I wanted to point out was, Colin Cowherd was talking about this on his show, and he made some points that were just stupid. Okay. He said, first of all, because he was trying to like tie this into his Urban Meyer take where Urban Meyer lost the locker room. And it's like, you're not going to lose the locker room going for fourth down. Fine. But you know what you're going to do? You're going to lose the fucking game. How about that? I mean, is that important? Your job as the coach, you're hired to win the fucking game. You're supposed to, and people are like, and then I was watching the Packers Ravens game today, and they were actually talking about that. And they said that they were talking to Aaron Rodgers in the pregame, Joe Buck and Troy Aikman were talking to Aaron Rodgers in the pregame, the pre-week, meeting. And they're asking him what he thought about going for it on fourth down. And of course he loves it. And I'm like, of course he does. He's a player. Okay. As the coach, your job is not to just go, well, the players want to do this, so we're doing this. No. Okay.
If you're
the coach, you're supposed to make the best decision to win the game.
Right. If the way that you're looked at in the locker room is so fragile that if you don't go for it on fourth down, you're going to lose your team, you suck anyway. I don't want to hear it. Like, how a coach that knows what he's doing, that's confident, the players are going to be able to figure out, okay, this guy knows what he's doing. Like this whole you're going to lose the locker room because you don't go to on fourth down is just nonsense.
Well, and then Colin Cowherd was saying that who's been the most aggressive over the last decade going for it on fourth down? Belichick, right? And I'm like, true, absolutely, and the numbers back you up. But the times I've been watching Belichick, I don't remember him just being stupid and just giving away points. Okay, I mean, like I've seen him kick plenty of field goals. I've seen him go for it on fourth down plenty of times. But he doesn't just go for it like every frickin' time.
Well, and I'll bet you a pretty high percentage of those going for it on fourth down is 4th and 1 or 2, and they do a quarterback sneak.
Yeah, exactly. It's not 4th and 7, 4th and 5, 4th and 4.
Right.
Come on.
Right. Yeah, and it's like the Chargers like outplayed Kansas City. They should have won the game, and you cannot lose games like that. That's how you get fired. Is when you lose games like that you should win. But
they absolutely should have.
If you're just competent with your clock management and game management, you will win. And those are the kind of games you can't lose those games. So, you keep going for it. Go ahead. When you're unemployed, we'll see how it goes.
Well, the other 2 points I wanted to make real quick was with Belichick. Like, I can't think of obviously every time he's gone for it on fourth down over the last 10, 15 years, but there were a couple that I thought of. The Super Bowl against Atlanta. Okay, they get down 28-3. Okay, now remember what happened after that? The Patriots scored a touchdown. They went for 2. They didn't get it, so it was 28-9. Right. The Patriots drive down. I forget what they drive down again. Okay, and it's at that point you're down by a bunch, right? You would think you need to score touchdowns, but he got into field goal range, and what did he do? He kicked a field goal. Okay, to make it 28-12, and then it's like you're 2 touchdowns away. So it's like even when you need touchdowns, you can't just give away points. And then in terms of going for it on fourth down, the one, what year was it? They were playing the Colts in 2010, 2011, whatever it was, and the Patriots had the ball in their own territory, 4th and 1 or 2 or something like that, and they were ahead, and they didn't want to give the ball back to Peyton Manning, so they tried to go for it. They almost got it, and then Peyton Manning scored, and they ended up winning the game, and everyone was critical of it. Look, at that point in the game, you could win the game by going for it on fourth down. That's the other thing that people need to understand. Like, there's times where you can actually win the game. There's other times where it's like, why are you going for it now? It doesn't really matter yet.
Right.
It matters, but it's like, come on, guys.
You can't win the game at the end of the first half, but you can lose it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Yeah. It's just those three points are a much bigger deal than people get. All right. So we could talk about that all day, but we'll be bitching about that for the next 6 weeks. Yeah. So anyway, so the NFL games. Did you want to talk about the Colts Patriots game? It was kind of interesting. Yeah, I mean, listen. Everyone is going crazy. Oh, the Colts ran the ball. They ran it down their throat. Blah blah blah. Jonathan Taylor's awesome. Yes, but Carson Wentz literally tried to give that game to the Patriots. He threw 1 interception, and he threw 2 interceptions that just weren't caught. Yeah. So I mean, I like the Colts. I was on the Colts to start the season, and I just don't buy this. They can't. Like, New England played pretty bad and almost came back to win the game.
Right.
Like, they played pretty bad. Like, the Colts should have beaten them by 30. Like, in the first half, the Patriots had no chance. They couldn't run the ball, and Mac Jones was throwing bad interceptions. And so, but yeah, Carson Wentz, Jesus. I mean, thank God the coaches were like, no, just hand the ball off, because that would have been a problem. So I think the Colts can make the playoffs, but I don't trust Carson Wentz to come through in a game. He's too.
They kind of tell you that, like, sometimes they don't let him throw because it's just like, let's just run the ball. So yeah, no, look, the Colts can be. They've got a really good roster. If they keep drafting well, then they can continue to be good and be, a playoff team. But, if you got Carson Wentz and you're having to protect him like that, then.
And the thing is, he's too good to have to be dealt with that way. He's too talented to where you have to manage him. It's just ridiculous. Some of those throws, it's just he's throwing into triple coverage. He should know better. It's one thing for Mac Jones to do it, but Carson Wentz, what are you doing? I mean, it's just, I think it was like in the third quarter, he had like 38 yards passing or something. I was just like, what is happening? So that being said, the Colts have everything that you need, though. They're good on both lines. Their defense is really good. They really run the ball well. They have good receivers. Like, they have everything you would want. So it's kind of disappointing, but we'll see. Maybe something will happen in the playoffs. Hopefully, I think, the book's obviously written on the Patriots. If you stop the run, they're going to have a hard time.
You don't want to rely on Mac Jones to.
I don't know how many teams can actually stop them from running the ball.
That's the thing, yeah.
But that game, Buffalo, New England next week, is going to be really good.
Yeah,
that basically could decide the division. So yeah, I mean, thoughts on the 1:00 games? I mean,
yeah, the Dolphins were
unimpressive.
I like the defense got a lot of pressure on the quarterback, which was good. There were a couple. They almost had a couple interceptions. It seemed like there were some plays that were kind of close. They missed some tackles here and there, but overall the defense played pretty well. There was the good, there was the bad, and there was the ugly. I mean, there was a pick six, when they're up by 7, which was really, classic example of a, not rookie mistake, but just a young quarterback mistake. You eye one receiver, and then the cornerback watches you the whole time and just jumps the route and runs into the end zone. So that was bad. He made some throws. He wasn't really as on as he normally is. There were some quick throws that he missed where it was like, why was the ball here when it should have been here? He didn't have Jalen Waddle, so maybe that's something there. Jalen Waddle had COVID. but they ran the ball. Although I will say that the commentators were giving the offensive line credit, and I was watching the game, and they didn't seem like they got a lot of push. It felt like a lot of the runs were off tackle or off, around the side, and it seemed like Duke Johnson just made plays. He made people miss, and he broke tackles and stuff. So, the offensive line was better. I mean, I didn't feel like Tua was running for his life the whole game, which granted some of that was because he was getting rid of the ball. But, yeah, I mean, there's some good things that I guess you could say. It's basically like, okay, now they're 7-7. They were 1-7 2 months ago. So they've basically rescued their season from being a total disaster. So they're 7-7. So even if they were to lose their next 3 games, they'd be under 500, but it's not like the worst, it's not like an absolutely terrible season. And Tua, this is his like 18th start. So some of the mistakes he made, I'm kind of like, okay, 18 starts in, like, I'm not going to totally rip you for that. I mean, I've seen veteran quarterbacks throw passes like he threw that become a pick six. I've seen that happen. I've seen it happen to Peyton Manning, So I don't want to totally jump off a cliff. I mean, the timing of it was pretty freaking terrible when you're up 7 and you're trying to drive down the field, And then the other interception, he just made a bad throw. Like that was so like I don't want to totally rip it. Like it didn't look like a bad read. It was just he made a bad throw. So there were a couple bad reads where I'm like, why the hell are you throwing the ball there? But I don't know. It's 18 starts in, and like, look, my whole thing was that, and I was going over this last week. My cynical view of the Dolphins is basically like beat the teams you're supposed to beat, and then try to stay close in a couple games against teams that are a little better than you, and see if you can eke out a few wins. And they've kind of done that this year. There were a few games that they probably should have won, and if they'd done that, then they'd be in much better position to try to make the playoffs. So yeah, there is kind of a formula, but they still need to improve the offensive line and all the other stuff we've talked about ad nauseum all year long. So
yeah, I like I think you said that about the running back. That's the kind of running back that they need, because they're not going to be clean holes, and the offensive line is not good enough to consistently block people.
They did this against the Jets, so right. What do you make of that? Are they going to do that against the Saints in New Orleans next Monday night? I don't really think so.
Yeah, but I think they at least have another back that maybe can make some plays. I liked they obviously didn't come ready to play in the first quarter, so that disappointed me. But I liked that Tua threw the pick six.
Bye week. Yeah, that's the other thing I just remembered now. They're coming off a bye week, and you start off the game like, okay.
Yeah, struggling with the Jets at home I'm not real thrilled. But I did like that after Tua threw the pick six, he came back and they went down the field and they scored the touchdown. I think that's important.
No, and there were some other throws that he made that I really liked. Like he threw some that were kind of into coverage, or he like threw over people, and there was a good throw to Ford, like down the left side, and it was basically, I think it was a third down. It was third and somewhat long, and he threw the ball to him, and they got the first down. But there was another play where there was a busted coverage, and the guy was wide open, and he underthrew him, and the defense just batted the ball down, and that could have been either a touchdown or a really big play. So,
yeah. So we're still lukewarm on the Dolphins, but the good thing is now we're going to find out what they're made of.
They play the Saints on Monday night, and then they play the Titans, and then the Patriots to close out the season.
Yep.
And the Patriots at home.
Yeah. So I am interested to see how they do these next 3 games. We will find out.
I would argue, like, even if they lose the game, like, can I watch them and see something? Can I see you, like, competing with them and staying close? Like,
Right. Yeah, I think with New Orleans, are they ready for that defense? New Orleans has a good defense. I know New Orleans is 5-7 or whatever. I'm not saying New Orleans is a great team, but they're not easy to beat in their stadium.
Yeah.
And they have a good defense. So I'm interested to see how that goes. Tennessee, physically, can the Dolphins hang in there physically with a team that's as physical as Tennessee is?
Yeah.
And because Tennessee basically plays like the Dolphins would like to play.
Yeah.
So, and then, I'm just hoping for.
We used to play on the Dolphins.
Right. I'm just hoping for a shot at the last game of the season, having a chance to ruin the Patriots.
Yeah, that would be nice.
Ruin the Patriots year. That's really what I'm hoping for. But anyway, we'll see how it goes. We can't fault them too much. They won 6 in a row, so 6 in a row is 6 in a row. You can't get too high or too low about that.
Yeah.
Man, the Cardinals lost to the Lions today.
Yeah, they
can't believe
it. That's not good.
Yeah, that was pretty ugly. I mean, they had everybody. I mean, DeAndre Hopkins is out for the rest of the season, but they had pretty much everybody else.
Yeah.
And to go to Detroit after they didn't play really well against the Rams and got beat, you would have thought they would be ready to play. But they really weren't.
I mean, getting blown out by the Lions. I mean, it's,
Yeah. I can't believe the Steelers are still alive. I mean, the Steelers are like Michael Myers at this point. I mean, I don't know how the hell we've shot them, we've stabbed them, we've burned them. I don't know what to do. And they managed to hang in there anyway. They're right now they're in the 10th spot in the AFC, which basically 13 out of the 16 teams in the AFC are still alive. So it's
include the Jaguars and the Texans and the Jets.
Right.
Just about everybody else.
That's right. That's right. So it's pretty crazy. I don't know how the Steelers are doing it, but credit to them, man. They beat Tennessee. I don't even know what to say.
And then the Chiefs now, after all the shit that went on this season, the Chiefs are the 1 seed.
Right.
So,
for the moment, we'll see how it all shakes out.
They're once again the scariest team in the league because they're not, okay, with their offense playing the way it is. Come on. They're not. Their offense isn't very consistent, and
And they have a tough schedule. I think they have to play. They don't have to play the Chargers. I forget. I think they're playing. No, not Dallas. I can't remember. They have 3 tough games, so we'll see. We'll see how it goes. The Cowboys managed to win again, even though they didn't look great doing it. They struggled to beat Washington, and they had a hard time with the Giants today. So
that's why I remember in the middle of the season, Colin Cowherd was like, "Yeah, this is a different Cowboys team. I think they're for real." And I was just like, "I need to see more. I think they're a good team. Their defense is good. They can, but yeah, they've been kind of struggling. Sometimes their run game has been kind of inconsistent. Dak has been kind of, up and down. I do think it's kind of funny, right? Like Dak didn't really play that well against the Redskins. He threw 2 interceptions. 1 interception was kind of terrible, and people are still like, yeah, Dak is what he is, whatever. Tua today had, 2 kind of bad interceptions, but but some people might be like jumping off a cliff about it. Like, oh God, see he's just not the, this is kind of, I feel like this is kind of what happens when you get into the mid-tier quarterbacks. You just kind of, you don't know, sometimes they have slumps or bad stretches where they just kind of don't play that well. So, but yeah, the Chiefs, I don't know how much I don't really want to get too much into the Chiefs. Their defense is playing well. Their offense is just kind of, I give them credit because they've continued to win games, even though they're not playing that well, which speaks to, earlier in the season, I was like, they're going to miss the playoffs. And obviously I was way off about that, which a lesson to people, like when you're coached by Andy Reid and you have Patrick Mahomes and you have a stable organization, they tend to start to figure things out. Maybe they're never going to get back to what they were like last year or the year before, but they're still a really good team and they still have a good foundation. So you can kind of see your way through, especially beating teams that aren't that good.
Well, and we didn't anticipate the AFC being so packed together like it is. It's only a 2-game difference between the number 1 seed and like the 12th seed or something like that.
Yeah.
So it's pretty crazy. Kansas City has Pittsburgh, Cincinnati, and Denver to finish out the season. So not going to be easy. That I think the Patriots Bills game next week is a huge game, not only for the AFC East but for playoff seeding in general. Because the Patriots have, I think, the Dolphins and somebody else not good. So if the Patriots were to beat Buffalo, that would really kind of flip things around a little bit.
Yeah, I wanted the Bills. I wanted to comment on something because they lost to the Buccaneers last weekend. And then I watched First Things First on Monday morning, and Nick Wright is just basically making fun of the Bills. He's like, oh yeah, you were close to winning that game and you didn't win that one, and then you played the Titans and you literally fell on your face. And I just remember listening to that, and it just pissed me the hell off, because it was basically like he was kind of saying, well, if you make a mistake or some crazy shit happens, like you slip, well, that was your fault. And I just think that's completely and utterly ridiculous. And it's like, and also to rip the Bills for that game. Okay. Their offensive line was kind of playing like shit in the first half. Josh Allen was running for his life. Okay. And he manages to get them back into the game. He injures himself. He keeps playing, and they came close. They kick a field goal to tie it. And then, the Bucs get the ball and Brady throws a nice pass and the guy runs all the way to the end zone. I mean, what do you want me to do? Shit happens. I'm not going to sit there and rip the Bills. I mean, the Bills obviously have problems. They can't really run the ball. I think in the second half they ran the ball a little better.
Well, and I'd like to point out, Josh Allen outplayed Tom Brady in that game.
Yeah.
I don't know if anybody noticed.
Yep. And their defense in the second half shut down the Bucs. The Bucs had like 3 points.
Yeah. So I know everybody thinks, Brady won, so therefore he's fantastic. I get it. But Brady's not been the best quarterback in the NFL for a pretty long time now.
Yeah.
He may be the greatest of all time, okay? But he's not the best in the NFL, not by a lot.
Yeah.
So
I just get annoyed with that, where a result happens and then we draw these giant conclusions from it, or then we have these ridiculous, like the whole thing where when the Bills lost to the Titans, Josh Allen had the ball and he was trying to do like a quarterback sneak and he slipped. Okay, so I'm supposed to say, oh, he sucks. Yeah. He's a loser. He can't win big games and blah, blah. It's like, come on.
Yeah, I said this a week or two ago. I'm not selling my Buffalo Bills stock. If they lose to the Patriots this week, okay, then, but I still think, like, if you're asking me, I think Buffalo's better than New England.
Yeah.
I know that the Patriots won that game and everybody thinks it's the greatest thing ever because they won while throwing 3 passes.
Bills almost won that game. And then to draw a conclusion just because they didn't win that close game that, that just means it's like a Skip Bayless argument. Oh, they have no clutch gene.
Right.
Yeah,
so we'll see. When Buffalo beats New England next week, then I want to hear where everybody's buried. You want to bury the Bills, be my guest. But I'm not burying them. They're a game out of their division, and if they win next week, look out, folks. So, Anyway, did you have anything else on the NFL before we?
I don't think so.
Okay.
No, that was it.
All right. So, you wanted to talk about the exciting new Wild Wild West version of college football.
Yeah.
The crazy transfer portal.
Complaining about it. So Lane Kiffin was he was quoted in an article, I think in local Mississippi newspaper or something, and he's just basically saying, like you were saying, he's saying it's like the Wild Wild West, where kids are just basically going wherever they can get the best NIL deal. Which to that I say, yeah, shouldn't they? Like, I don't understand. It's their career. Like, what's the problem?
Yeah. Why do we have such a problem with this?
They're saying it's unregulated and whatever else. And Lane Kiffin made the point, which I sort of understand, but he made the point that, I just hope that these kids, that like if someone promises them something, then when they transfer somewhere that they get what was promised, or when they sign somewhere, they get what was promised, which I understand that to an extent, but what kind of regulation do you want? You can only make so much money from NIL, because that's not how capitalism works. Like if I was in college and I was famous for some reason, I could make as much money as I wanted off my name, image, and likeness. So why the hell can't college athletes do it? It's their career, And by the way, they're still not even getting a slice of the pie. This isn't the school's money. This is money from boosters or whoever else, somebody outside of the school. So
yeah, so there was a kid that I think he's a defensive back, and he was really, he was committed to Florida State, but he changed his mind and decided to go to Jackson State to play for Deion Sanders,
right,
who's the head coach there. And so everybody went nuts. Oh, well, he got this from blah blah blah, and we're really uncomfortable with this. And my number one point about this is, first of all, you don't think these college athletes were getting stuff before?
Yeah, I mean, they had to probably go through schools had to go through a bunch of workarounds to get it to them without violating NCAA rules. But yeah, come on. Guys.
So yeah, that was happening anyway. I know everybody doesn't like it, but that was happening anyway. But I think honestly, the NIL stuff, and different states have different rules about what the colleges are allowed to do and not allowed to do. So we're acting like, oh, there's no regulation. There actually is some.
Right.
Like there's certain ways that this.
You got to pay taxes on some of it.
Right. There's certain ways that this has to be done. But my point about this is, in every other business in the world, they figure this out.
Yeah.
This isn't oh my God, what are we going to do? You just kind of figure it out. And that's what's going to happen here. Like, I really don't have a problem with it. I don't have a problem with somebody coming in and providing some guidelines, or some kind of compliance for whatever it is. I don't have a problem with that. But, we're acting like this is a huge disaster, and it's really not that big a deal.
Well, no, and then some of the coaches complaining about this, it just reeks of, I'm a college coach and I don't have as much control as I used to, and I'm a control freak, so I'm complaining. Wah. Like Gene Chizik was complaining about it. Dabo Sweeney was like, yeah, it's not about it getting an education anymore. It's like, come on, dude. In big time Division I college athletics, it's really all about just getting an education. Come on.
Well, yeah, you don't get to tell me it should be more about education when you're making $9 million a year as the head coach.
Exactly.
So it is the height of hypocrisy. So yeah, they need to figure it out. But what I think is really interesting more than that is this transfer portal, because it is like NFL free agency. Like, it is just, I'm in, I'm out, I'm in. No, I'm going here. No, I'm not going there. I'm doing this. I'm leaving to go here.
Stuff to it. So it's like, I'm going to go here because I can get this,
Right. Yeah. It's really incredible. Like, you can completely turn around your program. Like, so Brian Kelly took over LSU, and the guy who started most of the games for them this season, Max Johnson, he transferred to Texas A&M. The other quarterback that they had entered the portal, but then changed his mind and came back.
Okay.
And then the Bo Nix for Auburn, like, he's already graduated, so he's a fifth year. And like, people are forgetting, everybody got an extra year of eligibility because of the COVID year last year.
Right.
So we're going to have, I think next year, we're going to have some players that are playing 6 years of college.
Yeah.
It's not going to be a whole lot, but it's going to be some. So it's just kind of interesting how this works. USC's quarterback entered the transfer portal. So it's just kind of it's nuts. Like, you can like make your team out of honestly, you have so many opportunities now to improve your team.
Remake your team pretty fast.
Yeah. Your team can also completely fall apart real fast.
Yeah.
So, and that's why the early signing day probably needs to be abolished, because it's just it's a nightmare. But I was just following it just a little bit. And this is not something I pay attention to, but I was just kind of following the stuff going on. It's all over the place. So I will say this, for sports content, it's fabulous.
Yeah.
Fabulous. Because you have no idea.
It was funny because we were listening to Colin Cowherd, and Nick Wright was on there, and he made a good point. He's like, because Colin was complaining about it, saying, oh, it's like the Wild Wild West, and you're going to have a situation where everybody just goes where they can get the most money, so there's going to be a handful of programs that get the best players. And Nick Wright's like, so you're telling me that there's going to be a handful of schools that get all the best players? You mean like it is now? Like, what the fuck?
Yeah. It's not going to change anything. You're not going to.
The whole thing is, like, the players are going to go where they get the best deal. Shouldn't they? What's the problem?
Right.
Like, and by the way, the best deal doesn't just include the NIL stuff. It's like, well, what are the facilities? What's the coaching? Where is it located? What's the weather? What's, whatever else. it's your career. You're going to college.
Yep.
You should decide where the hell you want to go.
Yeah, and listen, 99% of these guys aren't going to the NFL. If I can make $50,000 a year because I go to Oregon, why not?
What exactly? And the other thing is, like, if you get hurt, I mean, you could be done. So why don't you try to make some money now?
Yeah.
So
the other issue that I thought was kind of that's now coming up now, especially because college football is talking about expanding the playoff. All these players skipping bowl games. So the quarterback for Pittsburgh, he's skipping the bowl game. The running back for Michigan, they're playing against Michigan State, and their running back is skipping the bowl game. So we're just gonna have it's gonna be more and more guys now skipping bowl games. Now maybe that'll happen less if you expand the playoff, but I don't know. Honestly, I could see a time where players are like, "Yeah, I don't really care."
Well, and
I'm going to get ready for the draft.
Really funny about that is that everyone complains about Brian Kelly or Lincoln Riley leaving before their team plays in the bowl game. The players don't even give a shit about the bowl games anymore. It's starting to reach that point. So what are we complaining about?
Yeah, no, they don't care. They don't care about the bowl games. Like, it's a good argument for expanding the playoff because, these guys they're just not interested in it. They don't mean it doesn't mean anything to them. Now maybe if they got, a cash payout, if they win the game, maybe then,
Yeah, maybe that would,
But anyway, do you have anything else on?
No, I just, I did notice there was I mean, we should probably, next week we should probably go through a list of some of the most ridiculous sounding bowl games because I saw there's a Jimmy Kimmel there's something after it bowl game.
Yep.
Like there's also like a Tony the Tiger, Frosted Flakes, the Tiger, Tony the Tiger or something. But like, what the?
Yeah, it's pretty insane. They did this thing on the ESPN college football podcast where it's like, how many bowl games can you name in 1 minute? And David Pollack named like 10.
Okay.
And there's like 40 now, so it's not easy to do. Anyway. So I had kind of I wanted to talk about the NBA, but I wanted to do a little game. I thought this might be kind of fun. So, Steph Curry broke the record for 3-pointers all time. He beat Ray Allen's record. It was kind of a cool moment. They had Reggie Miller calling the game, and then Ray Allen showed up to congratulate him. So it was really cool. So I was just kind of interested in this. I was looking at the 3-pointers list, the made 3-pointers list, and I wanted to. So there are in the top 26 on the list. There are 8 current NBA players. Well, 7, not including 8, including Steph Curry.
Okay.
So, do you think you can name how many of the other 7 players do you think you can name? There's one of them that you'll never get in a million years, but I think you might have a good shot at some of these.
Who are in the top 10?
Top 26.
Top 26.
Yep.
There's 8 active players.
There's 8 active players. One of them is Steph Curry, so there's 7 other ones.
All right, James Harden.
Yeah, wow, and he's, by the way, just to point that, and I'll go through this as we go. James Harden is 4th.
Okay. Damian Lillard.
Yep,
okay.
Nailed it. He's 10th.
All right. Is Durant on there?
Yep, Durant is, believe it or not, Durant is 26th.
Okay. All right. That's 3. So there's 4 to go. Active NBA player.
I'm sorry, there's 2 of them that you're not going to get.
Is LeBron on there?
Yep, LeBron is 11th.
Okay, that's 4. All right, so I need 3 to go. Okay. Who else is it? Active NBA. Kyle Korver retired, right?
Yeah, he retired, but he is. I think Kyle Korver's 5th.
Is Clay on there?
Yep, Clay is 21st.
That's 5. All right. So 2 left. Oh damn.
Well, there's actually 3 left.
Oh, okay. All right.
So let's see if I can help you out. One of the guys left is like a star, like top 10, top 15 player in the league. The other 2 are kind of more like role players.
Okay. All right.
So the one guy that's a star,
Kyrie?
no,
No, because he's been hurt too much. Yeah,
no. He's let's see. He's one of the duo. Like there's a bunch of teams in the league that have 2 great players on their team. He's one of the guys in one of the duos.
God, that is tough.
Well, just think, like if you named your top 10 to 15 NBA players, just think about who would be in there.
God, who's
he's a really good 2-way player.
Kawhi?
No, but think along those lines. Paul George is 20th. Okay, so the other 2 guys, they're both. One guy is a starter. He has a championship, but he was not the best player on the team. He's won the championship in the last 3 years, and he's a guard.
Guard. All right.
You probably won't be able to get this, so I'll give you a minute. I'll give you a minute, then I'll.
Kyle Lowry.
Wow, look at that! Yeah, Kyle Lowry at 17.
That's 3 years. I'm like,
Yeah, and
he's been playing for a while.
And then the last one. I mean, I don't even know. I'm not going to try to make you guess this. I mean, he's been a role player basically his whole career. And this will surprise you. Wesley Matthews.
Okay.
He's 24th.
Okay.
So, and then the other thing I wanted to say is, of those guys, what I want you to do is give me the guys that you think. So Ray Allen right now is 2,973 3-pointers. How many of those guys that we just went through do you think are probably going to pass Ray Allen? Obviously, you're not going to know the answer, but I mean, you're not going to be able to say for sure. But you just say who you think will pass him, and I'll tell you how far away they are.
Damian Lillard.
So Damian Lillard, Ray Allen is 2,973, and Damian Lillard is at 2,125. So he's got about 800.
Damn, that
800 and something, whatever. Well, but that's only like 2 or 3 years.
Okay, yeah. Harden. Where's Harden at?
Harden is at 2,509, so he's about 400 and 480 away. So he'll probably get there. You think now?
What about Durant?
Durant is pretty far away, surprisingly. Okay. He is at, like I said, he was 26, so he was last on the list. He is at 17,018. So, I'm sorry. What am I talking about? I'm reading the wrong number. I apologize. 3-pointers made, 2,982. Kevin Durant is at 1,705.
Wow.
So he's got like 12
shots and he drives to the basket.
He's got 1,200 to go.
Yeah.
A lot.
That doesn't really seem.
LeBron has got, he's at 2,029. So he's got about 900.
I don't think he's going to do that.
Yeah, he's got 900. That's going to be tough.
Yeah. Harden, I figured, would kind of pass him, and then,
right.
But some of the younger guys, like how many, Donovan Mitchell's not even on that list yet, but I mean, he makes a good amount of threes every year.
Let me see if I can find somebody. Danny Green is 40th. He's about 1,400 behind, you call it. But yeah, this is one of these things where this list has so dramatically changed.
Yeah.
That it's just nuts. And then the other thing I was looking at, like when you look at the percentage, right? So Steph Curry, he's made all those shots, and he's got like 500 less attempts than Ray Allen does, and he shoots 43%.
Yeah.
Like James Harden shoots 36%.
Yep.
Like it's insane. When you start going down the percentages, it's nuts because, most of the guys that make a lot of threes, they're just great scorers, but they don't shoot at a ridiculously high clip from three. Kobe Bryant only shot 32% from 3-point range.
Yeah.
So, I just thought this was kind of interesting, that, you see who the great shooters are because they're the ones that are around 40%.
Right.
There's a handful of, like, if I could just go down this list, the guys who have shot 40% or better: Steph Curry, Ray Allen, Kyle Korver, J.J. Redick, Klay Thompson, Peja Stojakovic, Dale Ellis, Steve Nash, Mike Miller, Glenn Rice, Danny Green, Brent Barry. That's it. That's like 10 out of the top 50.
Yeah.
So anyway, yeah, I mean, obviously, we all expected him to.
I thought it was cool. Like the stuff that happens around breaking a record in sports, like it's been kind of cheapened, over the last 20, 30 years. So it was kind of cool to see, like, we all knew it was going to happen, but I do think it was, and the fact that he did it so quickly and so efficiently. Yeah, I mean, I liked all that, and it just it's in some ways it's kind of sad because we used to have. I feel like in sports this used to happen more often, not just in basketball, but just in general, like in baseball. I mean, remember how the just for comparison's sake, remember when Cal Ripken broke the consecutive game streak? It was a huge deal.
Right.
I mean, that's like the Sports Center that night. That's like all they talked about. He's like running around the stadium, high-fiving people. It was just a huge thing, And then of course the McGuire breaking the Roger Maris record, But then several years later, when Barry Bonds breaks Hank Aaron's record, there's that shot of that funny ass, shot of Bud Selig where like Barry Bonds hits the home run, and then Bud Selig's like, okay, do I stand up? Or he kind of stands up uncomfortably because we all pretty much knew that Barry Bonds was doing something,
Right.
So, yeah, so it's kind of, and plus baseball, all these records kind of fell, so you don't really have that anymore. I mean, we could still have stuff with the NFL. I mean, like when Peyton Manning broke the single season touchdown pass record, like that was pretty cool. But yeah, it's just kind of weird because like, it's like the career touchdown passes. Brady is going to get that record so far away. I don't think anyone's going to break it unless they play to 47 or something. Like,
Yeah, it's a good point. We don't care about records as much as, and so this was kind of a big deal. They kind of made it a big deal. They really stopped the game, and they had the whole. So there's not a lot of records that anybody gets excited about anymore.
Yeah.
And now that he's kind of, and the thing is, like, now that he's kind of broken it, well, he's going to, Steph's going to be so far ahead, it's going to be really hard.
I mean, but if you think about the, like, other players that are coming up, maybe they, I don't know if they have to be really efficient though, to catch it.
Right. That's the hard part. How do you have that kind of volume and shoot 43%?
Yeah.
It's pretty darn difficult to do. So anyway, I thought that was fun, but yeah, I mean, as far as NBA, I mean, well, we should have talked about this at the beginning, but man, we thought COVID was under control in sports. Boy, it really took over the past couple of weeks.
Yeah.
I mean, I think they had like 75, 80 players in the NFL.
Well, I think sports is going to have to, they're going to have to start transitioning to and I think just as a society, we're going to have to transfer away from a model of worrying about cases and worrying more about deaths and severe cases and, hospitalizations and stuff, because this stuff's going to spread. A lot of the NBA players are vaccinated, and they still catch it. But to me, the thing that's interesting is, like, Now in sports, when somebody gets COVID, no one's like, oh, is he going to recover? Is he going to be okay? We all assume they're going to be okay because odds are they are.
Right. And there's apparently this new variant is more contagious but less dangerous.
Yeah. So it's like it's going to spread. People are going to get it, even the people that are vaccinated. So I think, and the NFL did actually change some policies. Like if you're asymptomatic and vaccinated, you don't have to keep getting tested. Right. So, which I think that's probably that's the smart move. We got to kind of adjust to the way things are now, not the way they were in March 2020.
Yeah, I think they need to adapt. And the NFL moved games, and the NBA had to postpone a game or two, and so I think they're going to get through it. The other thing is, so Kyrie Irving,
might come back and play away games.
Is coming back part time. Which honestly, if you're going to hire Kyrie Irving, part time's really the way to do it.
Yeah. Yeah, they get hurt and whatever. So yeah.
So, but I don't know. I was just kind of like, I saw that and I was kind of like, do they need him?
No, I mean, I guess Steve Nash has been playing Kevin Durant like an insane amount of minutes, so I guess he wants to, but I don't know.
Yeah, so we'll see. We'll see how that goes. Knowing Kyrie, there will be some issue at some point. There's no way this happens cleanly.
Yeah.
The other thing is that Anthony Davis is going to be out a month. So it's as if the Lakers' problems weren't bad enough.
Yeah, and they're going to – apparently now their reports are that they're having discussions about trading Russell Westbrook, which I don't know. It was funny. Chris Broussard was like, yeah, it seemed to take LeBron and Rob Pelinka the longest to figure out that this wasn't going to work. So, which again is kind of the funny thing where it's like, this is kind of the danger when you allow LeBron to have a huge influence on your organization. Like, he didn't have that influence in Miami, and Miami wasn't a total mess when he left. Cleveland, it's like, oh, we're going to sign Tristan Thompson. We're going to sign J.R. Smith. We're going to, we're not going to be developing players. We're just going to sign veteran players. So then, like, now granted, Cleveland's kind of turned it around this year. They're actually not bad. But I find that kind of interesting, where it's like, oh, like there is something, and I talked about this earlier, the last podcast, there is something to be said for continuity. The Suns have continuity, the Warriors have continuity, and they develop players, and people are like, oh, if you want to win now, that's fine. But, if you want to avoid having the, we're going to try to win now, and then if we don't win, then we blow the whole thing up and we're terrible. If you want to try to just be consistently competitive, you kind of need to develop players a little bit. So that's part of the reason. That's one of the things I like about the Miami Heat. Like, they seem to be good at that. They've over the course of the last 20 years, I've seen plenty of players come through, and it's like, or they're good here, they develop here, and whatever. So
yeah, and I was reading, Bill Simmons suggesting, is LeBron gonna decide he wants to play somewhere else after the season or something? Which I don't
think so.
I don't know.
Wants to live there.
I don't know, but I just thought it was an interesting thought experiment. But so we'll see how it goes. Hopefully, it seems like the sports are going to make it through. It's just kind of a challenge right now, and the NFL is having to deal with this new variant on the fly in the middle of their season, which is a bit of a challenge. All right, so thanks everybody for being with us.
Next episode 19, the Festivus episode. Happy Festivus, everybody.
Yeah.
I tried to come up with like a slogan for Festivus, even though that wasn't in the Seinfeld episode, but I just thought, like, may your lives be free from bullshit and may your enemies wallow in misery. and if that doesn't happen, then just start drinking. I don't know.
Yeah, hey, we got NFL games almost every day this week upcoming, so
yeah.
All right, folks.
All right. Thanks for tuning in.